Andy and Misty in the back. I said, I got 3 pages of notes. So I said, so if we start at 11:30, we're going to get out at noon. And then, here we're starting at 11:08. So they're going to think Pastor Jack done left us or something. But I'm so honored that Jack would ask me to do this. He kind of pulled a quick one on me when he asked me about it. It's probably been, 2-3 weeks ago. And he said, he pulled me in on a Wednesday night and he said, you about ready to preach? And I said, yeah, sure, anytime. He said, all right, how about Sunday morning and Sunday night? And I said, what? I said, I never preached no Sunday morning service. I said, what are you doing? Of course, I couldn't tell Jack no. And I said, absolutely. I said, I'd love to. So, I'm just glad that I'm honored that he would even think of me, But what we're going to be preaching about today, we're going to be preaching out of Joshua, but it's going to be preaching about risk. And I'll tell you guys a funny story. I'm just going to put this up there and tell him to just kind of live it up the whole message and just. I'm not going to tell you what it's about yet, but just kind of look at that and just kind of you can think about what I could possibly relate that to. But as you guys know, about I think it was 2 weeks ago, I had to go to Austin for a week for my job, and it was about risk, and it was actually about motor cars and stuff like that. But it was talking about risk with your institution and risk management and liquidity. I don't know if you guys know what liquidity is, but that's, if you ever start hurting, how quick can you turn your assets into cash and all this stuff. And anyways, I was in a class that it was called Introduction to Risk, and I was sitting there, and these classes are like an hour and a half long, and anytime I'm in a meeting, I'm in 45 minutes tops, and then I completely just tune people out. But I was in there, like I said, I was supposed to be paying attention because my job paid good money for me to go to this one. But I was in there and I was thinking, oh gosh, this cannot get any worse. I'm so bored, and it was 9 o'clock in the morning and just early, and you just can't function that early usually. And I'm stuck in a meeting for an hour and 45 minutes. And anyways, the speaker he put a picture similar to this on there, and he was talking about risk. And anyways, he started talking about risk in your job and what you've got to do to be prepared and what you have to do to kind of mitigate risk. And he talked about foreseeing the future and calculating risk on yourself and just kind of preparing yourself. And anyways, the Lord just started speaking to me because I wasn't paying attention. So the Lord started speaking to me about a message, and I was just thinking, I didn't even know at this time that I was going to preach. And I thought like I said, usually when I get a message, I just automatically assume it's going to be for the youth. And he just started speaking to me, and I had we got these little handy dandy notebooks from Capital One when I was there, and I just started jotting all these notes down. And I was thinking, man, I'm thinking I got a pretty good message here. And anyways, when Jack asked me, I immediately knew it was going to be for Sunday morning. I just thought, it's just so perfect how God works. But anyways, today we're going to talk about Joshua. And for those of you, if you ever read Joshua, it's basically just a story of encouragement, and it kind of has to do with risk, but at the beginning, Moses had died, and the Lord come to Joshua and said, basically, I know Moses has died, but it's up to you now to lead my people into the promised land. And Joshua had to look it upon himself as, do I want to take this risk? And go, it's definitely a risk. Whenever God asks you to do something, it's no risk, but it's a risk in your life. Whenever somebody asks you to do something in your life, it's a risk. And I kind of got some definitions of risk, and basically risk is uncertainty. And it's what's going to happen if I do this? What's the outcome? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Or, when you're doing something that you're not just haven't ever done before, or that you're just not 100% certain what the outcome's going to be, that's risk. And anyways, like I said, going back, God had basically commanded Joshua to take his people to fulfill what he had told Moses he was going to do. He promised Moses all this land, and he said, now it's up to you. And of course, Joshua, I'm not going to read the whole book, but it's a great book. Later on in the book, they do the March of Jericho, and it's just an outstanding book. And I usually don't preach out of the Old Testament, but this was just so strong on my heart, and I just knew that it kind of all fit together. But we're going to go ahead and read. I've got just about 9 verses here. It's going to be kind of long, but like I said, I'm preaching out of our teen Bible because I usually just kind of use that one all the time since we're back there with youth. But it's First Joshua chapter 1 and verses 1 through 9. And it says, after Moses, the servant of the Lord, died, the Lord spoke to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' assistant. The Lord said, my servant Moses is dead. Now you and all these people go across the Jordan River into the land I am giving to the Israelites. Excuse me. I promised Moses I would give you this land, so I will give you every place you go in the land. All the land from the desert in the south to Lebanon in the north will be yours. All the land from the great river, the Euphrates, excuse me, in the east to the Mediterranean Sea in the west will be yours, too, including the land of Hittites. No one will be able to defeat you, and this is where it gets really good right here, 5 through 9. No one will be able to defeat you in all your life. Just as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you or forget you. And I'm going to stop right there. God didn't say, I probably won't leave you, or I don't think I'm not going to leave you. He says, I will not leave you nor forsake you. So to me, that just basically takes all the risk out of the situation. But, says Joshua, be strong and brave. You must lead these people so that you can take the land that I promised their fathers I would give them. Be strong and brave. Be sure to obey all the teaching my servant Moses gave you. If you follow them exactly, you will be successful in everything you do. Always remember what is written in the book of the teachings. Study it every day and night. Be sure to obey everything that is written there. If you do this, you will be wise and successful in everything. Remember that I commanded you to be strong and brave. Don't be afraid, because the Lord will be with you wherever you go. Father God, we just love you and we praise you, God. And I just, first and foremost, God, just want to thank you for giving me this opportunity, God. And I just want you to speak through me, God. I just want to be a willing vessel that whatever you want said will be said this morning, God. And I just ask that you just have your way in the service, God. And just we invite you in. Just have your way, God. And we love you and we praise you. Amen. All right. As I was saying earlier, basically the Lord had come to Joshua and just said, laid it out. This is what I need you to do for me. And I was looking at that in the point of view, and this morning I've been kind of, and I was telling Sandy, I've got to preach tonight, and I've had all these ideas that I want to do for tonight and everything, but I haven't really been able to really get a whole message out yet because I've been so focused on this one. So this is my first Sunday morning. I want it to be good, but anyways, the more I thought about this, I just kept thinking, I wonder what I would have done back in that time if God would have asked me. And I was thinking, wonder if would I have been grounded enough, or would I have been ready enough for God to say, okay, Rusty, I'm here, and I want you to do this for me. Because a lot of times in my life, I'll find that, when I was a young Christian, and I was, like Johnny was talking about, the when you first get saved, the world, you're just on top of the world, and then you start kind of facing some adversity, and you're thinking, my gosh, was that really worth it that I got saved? Was it meant to be? And then you're the devil will kind of creep in, and he'll start saying, man, you've had that high for about a month, and now it's down, and God's already turned his back on you. But that's not true. I honestly think, and this is just my opinion, but when you first get saved, that first battle, after you come down off that high, that first battle is the hardest one to ever get over. But for me, it was because, I was in a situation where I'd had a lot of friends that were in the world, and I didn't have a whole lot of Christian friends, and I got saved, and I just was on a cloud nine for it was probably a good month. And after that month, some of my old friends had started coming around and wanted me to do stuff, and it always seemed like they were having a great time in the world, but I just didn't want to do it, because I didn't want to put myself back in that situation, or that kind of I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but that kind of fear of, or that kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Temptation, that's what I was looking for. Your wife's always there for you. I didn't want to tempt myself to kind of fall back into my old ways, but I just kind of got depressed with it. I kind of feel like I'm bored, I'm not doing anything, but the Lord was so quick to come around and just show me what he had gave me. But anyways, back to Joshua, he asked him to do this, and basically, Joshua had to, like I said, he had to decide if he wanted to take that risk, because there was a risk of if he's going to fight for that land and to lead Israel to, he could die. There could be all these certain things that could happen, and if I put myself in that shoes, I just wanted, I'm thinking, would I be able to do this? And honestly, I think I could, but anyways, he was either going to fail or he was going to succeed. And when God asks you to do something, just like Pastor Jack says, probably every service, he doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. And with Joshua, the more I read there, I was just thinking, man, this guy is just, he's on fire for the Lord, and I think whatever the Lord would ask him to do, he was going to do it. And anyways, like I said, they went on and we got back to land and they did the Jericho March, which was a great, probably one of the greatest stories in the Bible. But he succeeded, and a lot of times when you do something for God, I mean, you always, and for me personally, when I do something for God, I always get that lump in my stomach when it's something that I'm not uncertain about, or when I'm uncertain what I'm going to do. Just like the first time I got asked to preach at Muskogee at that youth night, I was just so nervous. But that's like confirmation to me that the Lord's going to move, because that's always the devil just trying to bring you down, and that's one thing he's good at. He'll take any kind of little sense of doubt and he'll just maximize it in your head by a million times before you get to where you're going, because he knows that if he can just creep in, he can get you thinking. And to deter that kind of risk, we talked about in that class the mitigating risk. Your risk mitigation is right here. I mean, if you want to get rid of that risk and know that the risk you're going to be taking for the Lord is going to work out, you got to read. Because I'm pretty sure that I've read this whole Bible, and I'm not sure anybody failed in there. You know what I'm saying? Anybody that was doing for the Lord and working right for the Lord, I'm pretty sure that nobody failed. And and I was reading something the other day. I was preparing for this message, and I was just reading some stuff in the Bible, and I had my wife's got a women's Bible that has some commentary after some words, and it was talking about in Joshua about succeeding, and one of the main things it says that when God does something for you, He may be not on your time, but He'll always be on His time, and His time's perfect. And when you're doing something for the Lord and you've got risk on it, I mean, you could say if Joshua went out and he faced some adversity, because I'm sure he did, and I'm sure there may have been times when he thought, man, I feel like I'm all alone out here fighting this battle, but the Lord was on time, and he made sure that he was going to handle that risk. The secret, though, that I found, and I kind of just talked about that point, but the secret to Christianity and the secret to serving the Lord is there's absolutely no risk. I've talked about return on investment. That's when you're going to invest in something, and you don't know. You always want to get a positive return on investment, because if you do it, you want to make sure it's worth your money. And serving the Lord is always going to be the greatest thing in your life, and there's not going to be any risk on that. The Lord never promised that it wasn't going to be any heartaches and going to be any turmoil, but if you're serving the Lord, I can assure you that is a no-risk situation, because you're going to make it to heaven. What's the alternative to heaven? Hell. And that's. So I mean, I don't. It's going to be a real place, and like Jack said last service, there's some people in there with some good intentions, and you just never know when your time's going to be called. But if you're serving the Lord, a lot of times there's some times in my life I know for sure that I've thought, man, I just want to give up. And just like Jack was he brought me up, and when he was praying for me and Cassandra last Sunday, I mean, that was never right. That was so perfectly right on time, because the numbers have been down in youth, and I was just telling Cassandra that I've been getting so discouraged, and I was thinking, man, we were talking about the building, and I said, I'm so excited about the building. I said, but man, I just don't want Jack to have to take that risk of building that building, and then that our youth group just kind of dwindle down to nothing. And it all started about a week ago. Johnny texted me a message, and it was early in the morning, and I don't think he minds telling me this, but he was talking about. He said, you can't give up, man. I haven't talked to Johnny about nothing, all that. I mean, he didn't know I was struggling anything, but that's how God is. He knows exactly what you need at the exact moment when you need it. Because I had just talked to Sandra the night before, thinking, man, I just don't know what we need to do. I said, we're trying our hardest, and and I told her, I said, I don't know if it's something that I'm doing, if I'm not reading my Bible hard enough, or if I'm just maybe just not doing what I need to be doing. But when Johnny texted me that morning, I don't know the exact text, but he just said, you got to keep your head up and this and that, and the Lord told him to send me this, and I was thinking, you know what, that just confirmed to me, but that it's not nothing we're doing, it's just a valley that we got to go through to strengthen us. And and there were several others, I mean, that just out of the blue texted me that day, 2 or 3 of them, just kind of just like a motivating text message, and that's just, I love that stuff. I mean, it really just lets you know that even though we've stepped out and took a risk of being youth pastors, that it's always gonna work out in the end, no matter what kind of valleys you go through. And I got a funny story here. I was telling Sandy and Misty about yesterday. We went out with some friends to the lake, and if you ever go to the lake with the Brackens, there's definitely risk involved. Because we went out early this year, and we all heard the saying, "Boat equals bust out another 1,000." That's what it stands for. But we went out to the lake yesterday, and I was just so funny this morning. I was preparing for this message, and I was like, this story just goes right along with that. We went out to the lake, and we were just swimming. Had a couple of friends with us, and we stopped, and a couple of the kids wanted to swim, and get through swimming, and I sit down in the captain's chair, turn the key on, click, 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 click. Oh God, my starter goes out in the boat. So we're just sitting here adrift. Got 2 or 3 boats around us. I'm doing the, hey, can you come over here? And I kid you not, these people drive by, and I hear a guy on the boat say, I think they need help. And the driver says, just keeps on driving. So I'm thinking, oh gosh, well, finally we get somebody to pull up, and they're going to help us. And I said, we're not pirates, we just need a lift. So that was just a funny story about risk that I wanted to tell. But anyways, back to closing. I want to get to this right here. What do you got? I mean, obviously this guy's a rock climber, something that I would never do. This guy is so engaged in risk right now that it's not even funny. And there's so many things that when I saw this in that class that I just had all these thoughts. To me, this is us right here. This is me. This is my wife. This is Johnny. This is everybody. This right here is your Christianity, with also the top of the peak. I just kind of consider it as heaven. These are just the thoughts the Lord gives me. And most importantly, this little rope that I don't know if you can really see, that's Jesus. That's the Lord. And what's he doing? He's trying to climb to the peak and make it to the top. And this is similar to our walk with God. There's going to be some situations there where I'm sure he's going to have to adjust and go this way a little bit, or adjust and go because there's not any handles here, there's not any handles here. And I've never been a rock climber, but I'm sure that's probably not the easiest thing in the world to do. But that whole rock represents that Christianity, and you're constantly climbing, and he's got to stop and take rest every now and then, I'm sure, because his arms get tired. And there's either going to be some times probably that whenever he falls, Jesus is going to catch him. That rope's going to catch him. And that's just like our walk and being a Christian. There's going to be times when we're going to just knock out that rock and get halfway up it, and something's going to come up, and we're either going to slip, we're going to have to move, we're going to have to adjust, or we're going to fall. But as long as this guy has that harness on him, has Jesus wrapped around him, that basically takes his risk away. And that's just like our walk. Whenever we fall, sometimes he could fall all the way back to the ground, but he's going to get right back up and go after it. If he didn't have that rope, my guy died. Sorry, command message canceled. This thing is doing good. But like I said, there's going to be times when he can fall, and if he didn't have that rope attached, it's certain death. But since he's got that risk mitigation, since he's got Jesus wrapped around him, if he falls, he can go all the way back to the bottom. He'll just start that ascent again. And he's never going to get to the top of that until he gets to heaven. And when he gets to heaven, unbuckle it, and he's there. It goes back to a commercial. I don't know if you guys seen that commercial for Chase Bank. That lady climbs that mountain, and she just gets up to the top, and she's so excited. And, it was just such an awesome trip that she had made. And I'm sure she was just so pumped up to be on top of that mountain because she had succeeded and she'd done something. And that's what I'm trying to get out of this, is when we're a Christian and we begin that trek of Christianity, nothing's promised. He don't know every inch of that rock, but God does. And he don't know where he needs to go to get through, but he's going to work and he's going to get through it. As trouble comes, he's going to change his strategy and get around it. And just like I was saying, to get to that rock, the top of that, he's got to rely on God and he's got to rely on his drive. If you got a guy that goes out there and rock climbs that's never done it before, and he doesn't prepare himself, and he doesn't know anything about it, he's probably not going to succeed. That's just like Christianity. If you don't read your Bible, and you don't encase yourself with Jesus and Jesus' love and God, you're not going to succeed. It's good. You possibly could, but if you're staying read up and prayed up, and you're just doing all these things that you need to be doing, and we talk about in youth being in line with God. And when you're in line with God, you're praying, you're reading your Bible, you're doing your stuff that you need to be doing to be a Christian. You're not afraid of being a Christian. And that's kind of just what I wanted to talk about today, and I'm going to go ahead and close it down. But every time that you guys start to think, if I'm doing this right for God, if He's speaking to you, trust me, there's no risk involved. Because if He's asked you to do it, you're going to succeed, and it's just up to you to succeed or not. So if I could just have everybody stand with me.